everyone, welcome back to our channel Trailhead Ranger NJ. And in our series of preparing for Salesforce OmniStudio developer certification, today we will be targeting our last module of this trail mix, that is advanced features of OmniStudio integration procedures. So in this we will be talking about some advanced feature of OmniStudio integration procedure, such as loop blocks, list action, or how do we want to display an error message, or if we want to continue our transaction if an error occurs, or if we want to stop the transaction. So let's get started with our first module, that is meet loop blocks. So how can we use loop blocks and where shall we use it? So a loop block is similar to if you want to understand it in terms of code, then it is very similar to for loop. That is, we can iterate over the items in a data array to repeat the actions for each item. If we want to perform a similar action for multiple items in an array, then we use loop blocks to iterate over it. And if we see its configuration, then it will have this loop list in which we can define the array which we want to iterate over it, and then add the key value pair. And then in execution conditional formula, we can define any expression which will evaluate to true or false, and based on which it will run. So they are just in this unit, they have taken an example and then they are using it. So if you see, they are using an example first to get a list of care providers from a third party system using HTTP action, and then they are getting time slots, and then they are using loop block to iterate over all the items to provide the time slots to all the users, and then trimming the JSON which is returned from the loop block. And in loop block we are using obviously data wrapper transform, as we were using HTTP action in earlier. So in data wrapper transform of loop block will look like this. In data wrapper interface, we can link our data wrapper transform which we must have created for this. In formulas tab in that data wrapper, we can define the formulas. Suppose in first formula we are defining that of care providers. Care provider ID should be returned as for care provider ID in the output JSON path, and then the values of time slot against each care provider ID using this formula, that is value lookup, will be returned in the slots provider node, and then slots provider should be returned in the care provider's timings. Okay, in then transformers tab, we are defining input JSON path and output JSON path. In preview, as we discussed, we can check the how our data wrapper is working if we are providing the input parameters to it. So let's come to the quiz. First question is, which HTTP method pulls data from an external system? So its answer should be B, that is get. Second question is, which data wrapper transform tab helps you to create a VLOOKUP to search the required data? So that is formulas tab. In formulas, we can define the formula, and then in which output JSON path it should be mapped. Let's check our quiz. So yes, it's correct. Let's move on to the next unit. Next unit is discover list action. In this unit, we will be talking about how to merge data using a list action, and how we can sort it, and how we can use its advanced feature. So let's come to it. So list action is that we can merge multiple lists by matching the values of specified list item JSON nodes. So example, we have two lists and it might be having similar name JSON nodes, or it could be having different names of JSON nodes, but we can merge it using list actions. Using simple feature, we can merge it if it is having same JSON nodes name, but if it is having different JSON nodes name, we need to use advanced merge. Okay, and then we will be having these three fields, that is list key, matching path, and matching group. List key will be defining the name of the JSON list which will be having the data to be matched, and then matching path will be having the name into which we want it to be mapped, and matching group will be having the number of all values you want to match. Then in set list action properties, when we will be having its action in the integration procedure, this list action, then what properties all we will be having to get it run in action. So first is merge list order. So it will be providing us the order in which list should be merged. If it contains a value for a key that was populated by an earlier list, the later entry overrides the earlier one. So the later one will be overriding the earlier one. Second is advanced merge. So advanced merge we will be using when we will have two lists to be merged having a different JSON nodes name. uh, Third is merge field. So it will be giving we will be giving the name of JSON nodes which needs to be matched to be merged. And then fourth is null is a valid matching value when merging. We can provide it is as checked or not checked to consider if we want to treat them as matching or not. Fifth is has primary. So it specify that the list elements in the output and elements in other list that don't match the elements of the primary list are ignored. So I hope you understand it. If not, please let me know in the comment section. And in the structure panel, in as similar to the loop block, first we are getting the data using http action, then we are using list action, and then response to trim the JSON data. So let's go to the list action. So you can see we are having the merge list order, then advanced merge is unchecked as it might be having the same JSON nodes name, then merge fields which should be merged. And yeah, then in response we are providing the response format, that in what format the data should be returned. Okay, so let's move on to the quiz. First question is, in a list action, which field do you use to enter the JSON node to match with the merged data? So it is B, that is merge fields. Second question is, which action do you use to return the data in JSON format? That is response action. Let's check. So it is correct. Let's move on to the next unit. That is manage long running integration procedure. Okay, so we could be having integration procedure which might be having a long running data. So or long running or long data, so it might take some time. So for that concept we are having chaining in this integration procedure. So what all chaining settings include? We can enable chaining settings. So let's understand what all settings it include. First, chainable, that is we can use this setting for synchronous apex governor limits. Queuable chainable, that is for asynchronous apex governor limits we can use this setting. And third is chain on step, that is we can use this setting if we want to we want the next step of an action is to always run in a new transaction. Why it is saying that? Because whenever we are running an integration procedure, it runs in a single transaction. So if we want in case if it exceeds the limit and it is moving to the new transaction, then we can enable this, that is we want this setting, that is chain on step. Okay, in this you can see we do have option to enable it here, that is chainable, queuable, chainable, and the last one was chain on step, so it might be in the scrollable. We can define the limit, that how many queries we want to insert in chainable, that is 70. If it is 71 or 72 queries, then it will move on to the next transaction. Okay, so here we are enabling queuable chainable. We are defining the heap size limit as 10, queries as 140, and the CPU limit as 40,000. Then in chain on step we will be creating this, and fail on step error. We will talk about this. Chain on step option, we do have it here, and we are getting as error that you have uncommitted work pending. Please commit or roll back before calling out, as it was not enabled, but if it is enabled it will run simultaneously and we will not get any error. So let's talk about limit settings. So what all limits do we have? First is chainable heap size limit, that is how much memory, maximum memory used to store data during transaction processing, that is 6 MB. And then chainable query rows limit, maximum number of rows that SQL query is allowed to retrieve, that is 50,000. Chainable DML rows limit, maximum number of records that can be processed as a result of DML statement, that is 10,000. Chainable SOSL queries limit, SOSL queries to be run, that is 20. SOQL queries limit, it's 100. DML statements limit 150, and CPU limit is 10,000 millisecond. And chainable actual time, number of seconds an integration procedure can run before chaining occurs to avoid reaching the Salesforce concurrent request limit. It depends on the integration procedure. Now second is for queuable chainable setting, we do have size limit is 12 MB and query limit is 200. If you remember, we put it as 140 in our example earlier. And then chainable CPU limit is 60,000 millisecond and we put it as 10,000. Okay, so now let's come to the quiz. First question, in an integration procedure, which settings do you select for a step to always run in its own transaction? So it should be the last one, that is chain on step in the action properties of the step, and either chainable or queuable in the integration procedure action properties. Second is you want to set 180 as the maximum number of SQL queries that a single transaction can run. Which setting do you use? That is queuable because it is having 200 limit. So let's check. It is correct. Let's move on to the next unit. And our last unit for this module is handle exceptions and rollback on error. So as its name suggests, we will be talking about how we can handle any exception or an error occurs, and rollback on error, how we can enable this setting and what it will do. So rollback on error configuration. So I will explain its meaning. So suppose if an error occur and if we enable this setting, then it will stop the transaction there only and it will show us the error. So we can in the data after load, in options tab, we will have all these options, that is to ignore errors. If we select this, it means it will ignore any error occurs and continue the transaction. Roll back on error, if we select this, so whenever an error occurs, it will roll back any update. So suppose we are running 10 queries, 5 queries will succeed and sixth one is failing, then it will stop there and will roll back the changes of 5 which we have completed successfully earlier. And the queries from 7th onwards, it will not be processing there. Then we do have option of use assignment rules, that is whenever a case is assigned, it will send email notification to user based on any configuration rules we do have. And the last setting we do have here, override target for all null inputs, that is if a value is null, it will not create a node for the field in the output JSON. In this we are talking about rollback on error. So if we are selecting this, so see an error occurs, that is required field are missing close date, they are not providing close date data. And in similar to this, we do have try catch block configuration as well. If you remember, in code as well, we use try catch block. So in try we define our function which should be processed, and in catch if an error occurs, it displays us the error. So similarly here also we are doing the same. If we are having try catch block, using add key value pair, we will be adding these value, that is error code should be displayed at this if an error occurs, message should be this, and detail should be of this. And we can enable it by clicking on fail on block error. Okay, and this is how the error will displayed, that is error code is this, message is this, and in detail whatever we have given as the parameter. So rollback on error activation, if we are activating on rollback on error, we have enabled it using try catch block. Okay, so it's not needed. Let's come to the quiz directly. First question is, in a try catch block, which option allows you to enter an error code and error message? So its answer should be fail on block error. Second question is, in a data after load, which option do you use if an error occurs and you don't want to update standard objects? That is rollback on error. Let's check. Okay, for this in a try catch block, which option allows you to enter an error code and error message? Let's go up. We saw it here. Okay, yeah, let's go to the quiz. So its answer should be failure response. Let's check. So yes, so whenever we will have failure response, it only then allows us to have the error code and error message. So that's how we have completed our module, that is advanced features of OmniStudio integration procedure. And with that we have completed our trail mix as well. The last is to the link to build guided experience with OmniStudio tools. It is the link of Trailhead Academy, in which you can learn from instructor. So we have completed our trail mix provided by Salesforce Trailhead for preparation of OmniStudio developer certification. So I hope you are prepared, and let's give the exam. If you do have any question, please let me know in the comment section, and if you like the video, please like it, subscribe the channel. Stay tuned. Thank you.